Hi, Jill Brotherton Art here again today with another painting tutorial. These are dahlias I'm painting, and as usual I start blocking in the background. I'm a big fan of burnt sienna in the background. I've tinted it with a bit of raw umber for the darker areas, and obviously titanium white in the lighter areas. I think it gives it a nice vintage feel, and it's quite simple to do and quite effective for a quick sort of sketchy painting like this, loose painting where I don't really want to get involved in background detail. So the next thing I start to do is sort of place my vase. It's slightly to one side so that it just gives a little bit more of a jaunty feel, and the flowers can sort of lean the opposite way towards the emptier space on the painting. So I'm just using a very washy oil paint of the lighter mix that I had for the background, and I'm just sort of loosely painting in the shape of the vase. So now I'm just going to use a mid-value of each of my flowers to sort of just mark on the canvas where they are going to be placed, and I've got one yellow flower and one white flower. And I'm using cadmium yellow tinted with a bit of titanium white, and I'm using for the other flower titanium white, which is greyed down with a more muddy tint from the background. So just for a bit of extra interest, I thought I would add an apple. Now, this is interesting because I really struggled with this painting because I was actually really quite tired. And I think that's worth knowing, that actually your performance painting can be affected if you're tired. That doesn't mean you can't work when you're tired. You certainly can, and you can push through it. But I did find that I was fiddling about a lot more and struggling with colours and temperatures when I was painting, particularly the apple, which was particularly the shaded side of the apple. And you know, that happens to me a lot. I still regress sometimes with my painting, and I think that's worth knowing if you are new to painting, because it will, you know, help you from being completely demoralised when you're learning. You sort of take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back sometimes, and then a step forward and a step forward and then a step back, and overall you're progressing forward. But I really struggled with this. I really fiddled about with this apple for far too long. So I moved on to working on the glass, and I think that's common in all my paintings and for a lot of artists, is to move around the painting because it stops you becoming too tight and too focused on one area, and also it helps you balance out the whole painting, particularly I think when it comes to values, because you can only progress the values as you go along, sometimes by restating them, by darkening them, by lightening them, and that only really works if you're developing the whole painting as you go along. Otherwise you've got nothing to compare the values to. So I do prefer to work on little bits of the painting and build it up a bit like a puzzle, as I think I've said before. So again, I'm just restating and flitting about, partly because I felt it was too insipid, and partly because I was quite tired, and you know, I wasn't really being sort of proactive about this painting and sort of just getting on with it and being all fresh. And sometimes I can, you know, really do a nice painting in a very short space of time if I'm very fresh and loose, but that wasn't the case with this painting. As you can see, I'm once again fiddling with this apple. So the next thing I did was to mark in some other areas where there might be some flowers and stems, and put some lighter highlights on the glass. By putting the lightest highlights on at this stage, it helps again to assess the values around it, in particular the darker values. Once you've got your highlight on, you'll be able to see if they're as dark as you want them. So I'm just starting to add some extra details now with another little flower, And I'm just working on the values of that particular flower, and I do that usually with a flower that I don't want too much detail on, because it isn't the focus of the painting. I will keep it very simple, and there's a little yellow one there that actually is just that little yellow blob. And so what I do with the little purple flower that you just saw there, I just try and keep the value range to about 3. So I have a dark, a mid-tone, and then I have the highlights, and maybe vary the colour slightly, the tonal, the temperature of the colours, and that will give it another dimension as well. But I keep it very, very simple. So here I am now, plotting out my petals and the sort of the orientation of the yellow flower and then the white flower, and I'm keeping the edges quite messy at the moment because I'm going to do some negative painting later, which is painting around the petals to neaten them up. But by just painting them loosely and roughly right now, there's more freedom. You can get a nice petal shape, you can get a nice flow with the petals. And again, we're looking for temperature changes in the petals, particularly the white. White flowers are so much more than white. They can have blue, grey, they can even have pink and yellow in them. So you need to pay particular attention to that. Once again, because I was tired, I was really fiddling. These petals really are not that difficult to do, but I was, I don't know what was wrong with me. But anyway, as you can see, I'm adding sort of various tones of yellow to build up the flower. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you are tired and you're faffing about a bit, that's fine, because with oil painting, of course, you can just keep going until it's right, until you've got what you want, even if you have to start all over again. It's not a big deal. But of course, you don't want to do that. You want it to sort of be fresh and right first time. So again, here I am building up the white flower and taking care not to destroy the cooler blue parts of the flower. But I want to just concentrate on the mid values before I finish both flowers with the nice bright sparkly highlights. So I was talking about working on all the painting as you go along and doing some negative painting, and what happened was I realised that the apple should have had more shadow and more darkness around it, shrouding it really, which would make it pop, and that was why I was struggling with it. So I worked on the values around that and darkened them and brought them right round the apple so that it would obviously make the apple pop, if you like. So and once I'd done that, I felt like I was making progress with this apple. And so, as you can see, once I'd adjusted the values around the apple, I could better assess the values on the actual apple. And I felt like, I didn't have enough colour, and certainly that shadow side of the apple was just not robust enough. And so I could adjust, if you can hear something, that's my dog walking around. So I could adjust those values accordingly. And by adding the highlight, of course, to the apple and the darkest value underneath, I felt that it was starting to move a bit, and I was starting to feel a little bit less like I was painting with treacle in this painting. So then I moved back up to work on the flowers. And I also did a bit more negative painting around those as well, to neaten up the petals, but also I felt that again the background was a little bit too light against the fairly delicate light coloured petals, so I kind of wanted to adjust that a little bit to make those also look a bit more luminous and pop. So again, I use my sort of general 3-tone rule on the petals. So what I mean by that is I try to use 3 colours and 3 values. just to get the a feeling of a 3-dimension about the flowers, about the petals, but without overworking it and getting bogged down in too much detail. And then, of course, I moved on to the white dahlia and gave it pretty much the same treatment. Also, just being careful not to eliminate the darker colours in the flower, and bearing in mind the temperature, because I definitely had warmer parts to those petals and cooler parts at the top. They tended to be more blue, and at the bottom they almost seemed to show through the burnt sienna behind, so they were much warmer. And now we're just really into the refining stage of the painting, so adding more stems, darkening them, lightening them, doing more negative painting. And really by the time you get to this stage of the painting, you're really just refining everything that you've done before. So what you've done before is laid a really good solid foundation, and depending on how far you want to go, you can keep working on this until it's completely like realism, or like I like to do, I like to keep them quite loose and not go too detailed. I don't like really hard straight lines. I like everything to be soft or even a little bit quirky and wobbly. I actually quite like it. It gives a bit of character. And of course the other thing that you're doing when you're refining the painting is you're restating your nice bright highlights. You want some more chromium in the colours, so you thicken up your paint. It's not as perhaps thin as it was when you were laying the foundation, so that the like the highlights here that I'm doing now are going to sit on top and really glow. And you just do this now until you really are happy with it. And that can be a different stage for different types of painters. So obviously a realist painter would continue now until this was really tightened up and really sharpened up. And for someone who's quite a loose painter like me, this is not far from the end. And once you finish a painting then and reach the stage that you're happy with, then obviously all that's left to do is to sign it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. If you are still watching and you have any questions, then please leave them in the comments below. If you're watching and you found it really helpful, then obviously please like and subscribe. If you have any ideas or any particular flowers you'd like me to paint, also let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like and click the notification bell so you know when I'm uploading another video. And here we go. I am now, there I am adding some more values. I forgot I'd done that. I'm going to fast forward this now to the end and show you the finished picture. Thank you so much for watching. See you again soon.